Two federal prosecutors in Florida have just resigned. Not because they were fired, not because they were under investigation, but because they were asked to join what's described as politically motivated conspiracy probe, targeting people who have spoken out against Donald Trump. This story comes from Bloomberg Law, and it's not just another headline about politics. It's a story about power, loyalty, and the slow corrosion of justice when law becomes a political weapon. So today I want to unpack not just what happened, but why it matters psychologically, because what's unfolding in Florida is more than legal news. It's a stress test of American democracy and the human conscience behind it. According to Bloomberg, two line prosecutors in the Southern District of Florida abruptly resigned under duress. They were reportedly asked to join a new grand jury investigation, one described internally as a conspiracy probe into Trump's so-called enemies. We don't know their names. We don't have an official DOJ statement, but we do know this. Right after those resignations, the office quietly restructured. The National Security Unit, which normally reports through several layers of oversight, was suddenly moved to report directly to the U.S. Attorney himself. That's a big deal because it removes internal checks and consolidates control. And when prosecutors start leaving under pressure, that's often the canary in the coal mine. When prosecutors walk away, it's not just bureaucracy, it's a warning flare. In a democracy, the justice system isn't supposed to serve whoever holds power. It's supposed to protect everyone from power. But when people inside that system start being tested for loyalty instead of law, well, we enter dangerous, very dangerous territory. That's when justice becomes conditional. That's when a prosecutor stops asking what's right under the law and starts asking, what does leadership expect from me? What does my leader want? And when someone says no to that kind of pressure, it's not a resignation, it's an act of resistance. It's the quiet courage of someone who realizes that integrity and employment aren't always compatible. Because this isn't just political, it's psychological. Coercive systems don't start by demanding obedience. They start by testing boundaries. They give people impossible choices: comply or lose your job, compromise or be replaced. In therapy, we call this coercive control. In politics, it's called institutional capture. But it's the same pattern. Erode autonomy, one little compromise at a time. And when prosecutors resign rather than participate, that's a rupture in that control cycle. They're saying, you can use my office, but you cannot use my name. You can change the system, but not with my silence, not in my expense. That's the psychological heart of this story. Two people who chose boundaries over belonging. What's happening in Florida isn't isolated. It's part of a larger pattern where law enforcement becomes an extension of politics. Step 1, redefine loyalty as patriotism. Step 2, punish dissent. Step 3, reward the silence. And suddenly institutions that were meant to protect the public start protecting those in power from accountability. You don't need mass arrests or new laws for authoritarianism to take root. You just need enough people to stop saying no. That's why these resignations matter, not because they'll stop the system from changing, but because they show that it already is changing. So the real question isn't why did they leave? It's what happens to the people who stay. Because when integrity becomes optional, justice becomes negotiable. And when justice becomes negotiable, democracy dissolves from the inside out. What's happening in Florida isn't a spectacle. It's a mirror. And it's showing us exactly how fragile truth becomes when fear and power are allowed to share the same table. Stay alert, stay critical, and remember, sometimes the most patriotic thing you can do is simply refuse. Now, if you like my content, please subscribe and share. That's important. And if you feel so inclined, go to buy me a coffee or use my Venmo. Have a great day.